Game of Thrones from Elden Ring to the Young Wolf Lord. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, Meeting the Queen of Thorns. When Catelyn led her people into the camp of the Knights of Flowers, she also found an unexpected person. Little Fina Petty. Petty used to be a thin boy, and now he has grown into a thin man, 1 or 2 inches shorter than Catelyn, but slender and agile, with a face as sharp as she remembered, and a pair of grey-green eyes full of smiles. "Why are you here too?" Catelyn asked directly. Petty showed a mischievous smile. "Exactly the same as when he was a child. Of course it's the same as your purpose, Catelyn." Catelyn ignored her deliberate intimacy, and it was not surprising that he could guess her purpose. He showed a unique cunning since he was a child. Petty was sent to Riverrun to be trained since he was a child and lived with Catelyn and Lyssa. Whenever he made a mistake, he would show a harmless look of admitting his mistakes. Until he took Lyssa's virginity, he finally angered Lord Tully and drove him back. Now he is the finance minister of the kingdom. He came to the army of Highgarden in this chaotic time. He must have one and only one purpose. Let's go. Catelyn didn't want to say more to him, so as not to be tricked by him. Petty looked at Catelyn with some surprise. He also knew that Catelyn appeared in Renly's army, but after what happened last night, he thought Catelyn would leave immediately. He didn't expect that she would come here to get the support of Highgarden like himself. Petty looked at the figure he had dreamed of. It seems that time has changed people. However, I like changes. Catelyn was the first to be received by the Knight of Flowers, because it was rumored that Catelyn was the only one present after Renly's death. What the Knight of Flowers wanted to know most at this time was the truth of Renly's death. Catelyn took Brienne into the tent, which was full of vigilant guards, and the 2 children of the Rose family sat at the top. The Knight of Flowers and his sister Little Rose. Seeing Catelyn coming in, the Knight of Flowers was instantly furious. "Murderer, you dare to come back. I should immediately have someone catch you and make you pay with your lives." Catelyn was fearless. "Since we dare to come, it means we are not the murderer, and we are sure to prove that we are not." "Oh, how to prove it?" "To be honest, you should really thank Sir Robert. He let you go, and I killed him first. Now you are much calmer, and you can stand and talk to me." The Knight of Flowers was Renly's lover and the captain of his Rainbow Knights. Sir Robert was a member of the Rainbow Knights. Because he did not fulfill his duties, the Knight of Flowers was furious at the time, so he was killed directly. All the Rainbow Knights on duty that night also suffered together. Catelyn silently mourned for the familiar Sir Robert in her heart. He died because of her, and she would compensate his family in the future. "It was not us who killed Renly, but Stannis." Catelyn told everything that happened that night, no matter how big or small. The Knight of Flowers said, "Do you think I will believe such a bizarre thing?" But in his heart, he believed it half a point. Because this matter was indeed too bizarre, and there was no flaw in what Catelyn said. It was so fake that it didn't seem fake. Catelyn didn't explain too much. She said in a calm and steady tone, "I hope to resolve this misunderstanding with High Court and meet the Queen of Thorns." Everyone knew that the person in charge of High Court was not the current Duke, but the Lady Olenna, the Queen of Thorns, who was famous for her iron blood and calmness. The Knight of Flowers sneered, "Do you think I will let you see my grandmother and let you murder her again?" At this time, Catelyn knew that her life was safe, because although the Knight of Flowers was furious, he had not called his men to kill him, but kept threatening him. He would not behave like this when he wanted to kill someone. Sure enough, Little Rose, who had been watching from the sidelines, came down at this time. She comforted her brother. "Lady Catelyn wants to see Grandma, so let's let them meet. I believe Grandma will have her own judgment." Catelyn glanced at Little Rose, secretly sighed at her beauty, and felt that it was good to be young. After the meeting, Catelyn left the tent and returned to Highgarden with the army. She saw Petty also walked into the tent of the siblings, but Catelyn was not nervous. No matter how eloquent Petty was, the Queen of Thorns would not give her granddaughter to marry the Lannister family. When the army returned to Highgarden, Catelyn was settled. As far as she knew, the Queen of Thorns first met petty Littlefinger, and a few days later, she sent someone to find her. This shows that the Queen of Thorns at this time still had her heart set on King's Landing. Entering the castle, it was all built with white marble. The interior was like a green paradise, with flowers blooming everywhere, and gardens, pools, and artificial waterfalls dotted the entire castle. The castle was full of stone carvings, fountains, and marble columns. Grapes and roses decorated the walls and sculptures, and the ancient buildings were covered with vines. When Catelyn passed the tower, she could see all the manors and fields within a few leagues, and the world was full of flowers and golden roses. This is Highgarden. This is a reach. The most beautiful castle and the richest region in the entire Westeros continent. Catelyn had no time to appreciate the beautiful scenery. She followed the instructions of her entourage and came to a magnificent reception room. Unlike reception rooms in other places, the reception room in Highgarden is an open-air bed with a fountain and potted plants in the middle. The eaves on both sides cast shadows, and the golden gauze-like curtains block the sunlight outside. The Queen of Thorns sat curled up in a chair, waiting for guests. Catelyn couldn't believe that the thin woman in front of her with shining eyes was older than her father. Seeing Catelyn coming, the Queen of Thorns smiled. "Lady Wolf, what a rare guest. Highgarden and Winterfell have little communication, and the two sides are far apart, so members of both sides usually meet in King's Landing." Catelyn saluted gracefully. "Lady Elenried, I greet you on behalf of Robb, King in the North." The Queen of Thorns sneered. "Oh, King in the North, what an ancient name. There are more kings on the continent now, and this title seems to be worthless." Catelyn was not to be outdone, but it is still rare to have a king who has 30,000 elite soldiers, controls half of the territory of the continent, and repelled the invasion of Lannister and the Iron Islands, isn't it, ma'am? "Yes, I know. Your son killed the Mountain, and we owe him a favor. The Mountain did a lot of bad things under Tywin's orders. As long as you take off his head, you can receive generous treatment in most of the lords' homes in Westeros, because his head is the best gift." The Queen of Thorns changed the subject, "But King's Landing has as much power and army as you do. They have a nominal advantage, and most importantly, it is very close to us." Catelyn knew that she would not be a match for the old woman, the Queen of Thorns, in terms of cunning and rhetoric, so she simply said directly, "I know Petty has also come to you to seek marriage, but I think there are some things you should know." Catelyn told Joffrey all about his absurdity and cruelty, and the core of the story was only one meaning: if you marry your granddaughter to him, you will also be subjected to unexpected humiliation. The Queen of Thorns did not take Catelyn's words to heart at first, but the more she listened, the more she felt something was wrong. Although her face was expressionless, she was already wondering in her heart, how could there be such a stupid and bad person? Chapter 77. Grand Banquet for Ministers. Reverend Duke Tully, who had been bedridden, got up early today and washed, and trimmed his hair with the help of his maid. His body was very weak. Although he was not in any pain, he just couldn't use his strength. Even so, he struggled to get up today. Because today was a very special day, his grandson was going to hold a grand ceremony. At this time, Reveron was bustling with people, and filled with a cheerful atmosphere. The castle hall was decorated with flowers, luxurious chandeliers were hung, red velvet carpets covered the entire hall, and the long table was full of barbecue and wine. People danced with their partners, and laughter was heard everywhere. Robb, who had returned from Reveron, sat on the throne, holding a glass of wine, and chatting with a sad-looking Sansa. "Can I come to the banquet later? There are still many accounts to settle." Robb laughed. "It doesn't matter. Haven't you calculated today's expenses? Take a good rest today." Sansa snorted. "Every day, things are delivered to Reveron, and there are many things to be sent out. If I rest today, I will be exhausted tomorrow." The wealth of the Westerlands far exceeded Sansa's imagination. The supplies and gold dragons she saw in the past few days are more than the maximum number she could imagine in her life. The 3 gold mines occupied by the North are producing gold every day. In order to speed up the mining progress, Robb also sent 5,000 captives from the Iron Islands. The 3 lords who were still looting in the Westerlands were not idle either. The large troops rested and trained according to Robb's orders, and the small troops went to loot the surrounding villages. Most of the magnificent decorations of Reverin were looted from the Westerlands. Moreover, the stationed army needed food and grass. Every day, there were carriages coming in and out of Reverin. Such a huge amount of calculation almost forced Sansa to become a 007 worker. Robb urgently transferred the Maesters from various castles and asked them to form a legal calculation department to help Sansa calculate and barely maintain it. Robb sighed, there is still a lack of talents. After we marry Highgarden, we can go to the Citadel to recruit some calculation talents. At that time, your pressure will be reduced a lot. Sansa asked curiously, did Highgarden agree? Is mother coming back? Robb took a sip of wine. Well, they have no reason not to agree. Mother is on her way back. The reason why Robb wanted to marry Highgarden was not only because of their rich supplies, but also because of the important resources they possessed, knowledge. The Citadel was located in the River Reach, which was the highest leadership organization of the Maesters in the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. In this era, when civilians and even nobles may not be literate, being able to write and calculate is a rare talent. And such a huge knowledge resource is what Robb urgently needs. It was not difficult for Robb to conquer the world. If he wanted to, he could conquer the world without any mysterious power. But what was the point of leaving only a mess after the battle? Robb wanted an empire that was well ordered and where people lived a prosperous life. The banquet soon entered its climax. The music became more and more rapid, the dancing steps became more and more cheerful, and the jesters and clowns also showed their unique skills. When everyone was tired of dancing, they sat back to their seats and enjoyed the food. The atmosphere was just right at this time. Duke Tully, who was sitting next to Robb, stood up and knocked on the glass in his hand with a smile on his face. My lords. Duke Tully was the oldest and the most senior among all the people present. When he spoke, everyone quieted down and listened to him finish his words. Duke Tully raised the wine glass in his hand tremblingly. We can all drink wine and enjoy food here with peace of mind. It is the gospel brought to us by the King of the North. Let us raise our glasses together and toast to the King of the North. Cheers to the King of the North. Everyone raised their glasses and drank them all. Duke Tully continued, however, His Majesty Robb also cannot do without the strong support of everyone present, so His Majesty and I would like to toast you together. Duke Tully and Robb stood up, and everyone present also hurriedly stood up and drank the wine in their glasses. The North will never forget, and the King of the North will never forget. We all see your achievements. Taking this opportunity, the King of the North will now announce new appointments and rewards. Please listen carefully. The nobles in the audience instantly became energetic. They knew that it was time for His Majesty Robb to divide the cake. What did everyone work hard to fight for the King of the North for? Isn't it now? After Duke Tully finished speaking, he sat down and looked at his granddaughter with a smile. Sansa was a little nervous, but she soon calmed down. When she was in King's Landing, she was often insulted by Joffrey in public, but she endured it. Now she is different from before. Sansa took a deep breath and began her first performance on the political stage. Everyone, in front of you is the King of the North, the blood wolf who slaughters enemies on the battlefield, the protector of the Riverlands, the man blessed by thunder, the healer, Robb Stark. Sitting on the throne, Robb quietly held his forehead. When did he get so many nicknames? According to the current situation, it is very likely that one day he will surpass Dragon Mother and become the new title king. Sansa continued, today, His Majesty will confer titles on 11 ministers, reward 5 nobles, and confer titles on 20 knights. The audience immediately became excited. Conferring titles on so many people at once. Is this the advantage of a startup team? Minister of Intelligence, Sir Blackfish. Minister of Military Justice, Lady Maggie. Minister of Logistics, Sir Edgemere. Minister of Recruiting, Lord Gregan and Lord Rickard Karstark. Minister of Craftsmen, Lord Rose Bolton. Minister of Foreign Affairs, my mother, Lady Catelyn. Minister of Propaganda, Lord Jason Mallister. Minister of Counter-Revolution, Lord Titus Blackwood. Minister of Surgeon, Red Monk Thoris. Minister of Law and Calculation, Sansa said, feeling a little embarrassed, Sansa Stark. In addition, the positions of Hand of the King and Lord Admiral are temporarily vacant, and His Majesty will consider and appoint them as appropriate. Robb's minister system is completely derived from the ancient Book 6 strategies, which improves the military system and moves it to reality. This book was written during the spring and autumn period and the warring states period when the feudal system gradually collapsed, and it is similar to the current situation. Because Robb is now completely the king of a military country, and the country's finances and the king's authority all rely on victories to maintain. If there is no war, most people in the country, especially in the north, will starve to death, and Robb's reputation will plummet. So Robb did not choose the more perfect 6-department system in his previous life, which would be a big step and easy to cause trouble. The ministers are all nobles who have made outstanding contributions in the previous wars. The Riverlands and the North account for almost half each. Most people will be dissatisfied with this list, but they will not object. This is checks and balances. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 78, The Duties of a Minister. After awarding the ministers, Robb, who had been silent, stood up and prepared to start the highlight of the banquet. Sansa's face was calm, and she continued to announce, His Majesty will personally confer titles on 5 nobles. Sir Blackfish, because of your outstanding military exploits, His Majesty, in the name of the King of the North, witnessed by the old and new gods, confer you the title of Earl of Blackfish, and your territory is the Golden Tooth. Sir Blackfish, who rushed back from the front, was filled with mixed feelings and a melancholy look on his face. He and his brother Duke Tully, who was in the stands, looked at each other. The two brothers, who had quarreled for many years, but had a deep relationship, finally let go at this moment. Sir Blackfish winked like a child. Now I'm also a lord. You have no right to interfere in my marriage. Duke Tully raised his glass and gestured to his relatives. In fact, the Golden Tooth has not been conquered yet, but everyone knows that the Golden Tooth is already in the pocket of the North, and the Golden Tooth is located in a strategic location, so Robb is not at ease to hand it over to others. Lord Blackfish walked up to Robb, knelt on the ground, and swore to Robb, the Blackfish family will always be loyal to the Stark family. I swear in the name of the old and new gods that, if the Stark family is in danger, the Blackfish family will offer everything. Robb easily picked up the ice, and tapped Sir Blackfish's head and shoulders 3 times. I accept your allegiance. In the envious eyes of everyone, Lord Blackfish walked down the steps and officially became the Lord of the Golden Tooth City, and established his own family. Edgar Stark, Daisy Mormont, Patrick Mullister, Brynden Blackwood, the 4 of you are named Viscounts, and share the brand and the crag. The families represented by these 4 people have made contributions in this battle. The Karstark family and the Mormont family are important helpers to Robb. Mullister of Seamar helped Robb recapture Averin, and Blackwood of Wildraven City defended Reverin under the siege of Jaime. Moreover, their families all had more than one child, so Robb took them out and awarded them with fiefs. As for Little John, he could already inherit his father's earldom, and Robb awarded him a lot of materials and slaves. The Seven family had been helping Robb watch over Old Skinner, so Robb was going to give them some benefits in private, but he couldn't do it in public, otherwise it would be hard to convince the public. The 4 young men walked up to Robb excitedly, knelt on the ground, and declared their loyalty to Robb, in the name of the new and old gods. After awarding the nobles, Robb's main event was next. Robb wanted to reward the knights. These 20-something people were originally civilians. In the Battle of Plundering the Westerly, they collected enough military merit points set by Robb through buying or exchanging. Although they were basically honorary knights, and had no property, they were already excited, and almost crazy at this time. Knights. Nobles. The dreams of dozens of generations have finally come true for them. This kind of thing of crossing classes, and realizing a difficult dream made these 20-something people completely confused. Many of them were still illiterate, and they had just come to the banquet hall from the front line in a daze, waiting for the turning point of their lives to come. Robb personally walked down the steps and came to the front of these 20 people. From today on, your family will appear in the long river of history. After thinking of your family name and family language, I will announce it to the world, and then your family's name will appear in the list of major and minor nobles. Every maester in the citadel will remember your family, and when necessary, they will tell the lord they serve your name. Your title is guaranteed by me. As long as you have heirs, your title will be passed down forever. Even if your family bloodline is cut off, this book will prove that you have existed in history. Now, take the oath. The faces of the more than 20 newly promoted knights were still a little confused. They were like puppets, being pulled to complete a series of rituals. Mechanically recited their oaths of allegiance. Then, they returned to their seats. It was not until this time that some people realized that they had become knights. The moment they realized this, they began to cry bitterly, silently reciting the names of Robb and their ancestors, and their emotions were shaken. It all seemed like a dream. The banquet ended successfully with laughter and wailing. Duke Tully dragged his tired body and prepared to return to his bedroom to rest. Before leaving, he saw Robb walking towards the study with the newly appointed ministers, feeling a little dazed and proud. Robb has become a qualified king. His son and brother can follow him, and he finally doesn't have to worry about them anymore. In the study, not all the ministers appointed by Robb were present. Except for Earl Blackfish, who was going to attend the appointment ceremony. The other 4 ministers who robbed in the Westerly had not returned yet. Catelyn had just set out from Highgarden and rushed back to Rivera day and night. Rose Bolton was still stationed at Harrenhal. Robb called the ministers together to make them clear about their responsibilities. The framework of the King's Wing system is simple to build. All Robb needs to do is move his fingers and write 2 words. But in order for this system to really work, Robb needs to give people money and food, and even Robb needs to endorse their authority as the King of the North. Otherwise it will just be an empty shell. Robb looked at his ministers and sighed. Let's take it step by step. We are crossing the river by feeling the stones. First of all, one thing is clear. In the future, all the seized materials will be sent to Riverrun and registered and accounted for by Sansa. The money bag is the foundation for Robb to appoint his subordinates. Only with money can you buy people's hearts and stabilize the country. Even if it takes an extra procedure, Robb will count the materials before sending them out. Sansa felt that she was valued and nodded seriously. Lord Blackfish, your intelligence work is mainly responsible for the battlefield. You should set up an independent scout unit. Please make a list of how many people and how much money you need. Lord Jason Lannister, the focus of your current propaganda work is the military merit system and interviews with soldiers who have been canonized as knights. Write down their words and post them in various camps. Find someone to read them out every day. With the current illiteracy and printing costs, it is impossible to make a newspaper. But Robb wants to have the right to speak, so he can let the soldiers and the people know by posting notices and reading them out. Thoros, you should discuss with Lord Milister. If there are soldiers or people who are willing to become military doctors, pull them into your team. Robb knew that after this operation, the money would probably be spent like water. The supplies robbed from the Westerly would probably be spent in less than a month. Fortunately, Catelyn brought him good news. The Queen of Thorns agreed to the marriage. In this way, his wallet immediately bulged again. Finally, the meeting ended, and when everyone was about to leave, Robb stopped the Minister of Purge and said, Lord Blackwood, please stay for a moment. I have something to discuss with you. Chapter 79 The Birth of the Wolf Guard. Are you curious? I didn't explain your duties clearly before. Lord Titus Blackwood had just returned from King's Landing. Facing Robb's question, he quickly lowered his head and said, Your Majesty must have planned this long ago. Robb nodded and poured a glass of wine for the Lord of Wildcrow City. Try it. This is one of the longest stored wines in the Westerlands. Lord Wildcrow quickly took it, feeling a little secretly happy. He was left alone, and His Majesty personally poured him a glass of wine. As the Minister of Purge, he must have a special job to do. Robb didn't say it directly, but chatted with him for a while. It is rumored that the Blackwood family used to be a vassal of the North, but was expelled to the Riverlands by the Stark family. So you are one of the few families that believe in the old gods except the North. Yes, according to the words left by our ancestors, we once ruled the Wolf Forest. Lord Blackwood had no taboos. That was thousands of years ago, and now it was just a story. Robb took a sip of wine, and I heard that you performed well in King's Landing, completely shocking Cersei and Joffrey. It's all because of your majesty's reputation. Robb laughed. You are too modest. I have observed you for a while. You are modest and calm. You are a rare talent. When Jaime defeated the Riverlands, you were able to gather the remaining troops in time. In King's Landing, you were able to show my northern demeanor. Lord Blackwood did not speak. He knew that what His Majesty Robb was going to say next was the key point. So I gave you the position of Minister of Counter-Rebellion. What do you think you will do? Lord Blackwood thought for a while. Our spoils are now piled up like a small mountain. There must be some guys with bad intentions. My task is to eliminate these termites? Robb nodded. Yes, this is your official job. Blackwood was stunned. He had a special task? Robb explained. Miji Mormont's job is to enforce military law, but it's okay for her to deal with the soldiers. Once the nobles become corrupt, it will be difficult for her to do so. She has killed 3 or 4 small nobles before, and now her relationship with several ministers on the front line has become a little stiff. If she continues to carry out my orders, I'm afraid she will be isolated. Blackwood vaguely understood what he was going to do. As the Minister of Purge, he mainly monitored the nobles. Robb continued, so, I'm going to form a special team. This team is not aimed at the army or the lower level soldiers, but only at the nobles. Its power will exceed everyone's imagination now, including you. It will spread throughout the kingdom, lurking around every noble, and it will only be responsible to me and communicate with me, and it will not interact with anyone else. This team will cost the most money besides the army, and it will also have the highest power besides me and the Council of Ministers. Lord Blackwood was a little confused when he heard this. He knew that Robb might give him some special tasks, but he didn't expect that this task seemed to be much more severe than he thought. If Robb could fulfill what he said, then he would be almost the hand of the king. No, there was a difference between him and the hand of the king, as he did not seem to handle those political affairs. More like a spy? No, how could a spy lurk around his own people? Just when Lord Blackwood was still a little confused, Robb solved his doubts. I have spent so much money and resources on this team, so naturally I have higher requirements for it. Anyone who lurks there must deliver messages on time, and everything must be compiled into a book. There are daily reports every day and monthly reports every month. You must grasp all the movements of the nobles in the kingdom, their food, clothing, housing, transportation, and correspondence. In case of an emergency, you can act first and report to me later. Lord Blackwood was completely shocked. What Robb said today was completely beyond his understanding. What is His Majesty going to do? Monitor all the nobles and ministers? The difficulty and madness of this is beyond any king in ancient times. Your Majesty, is this the right way to do it? Robb waved his hand. You should do it according to my ideas first, step by step. I don't ask you to do it to the extent I said at the beginning. The development of things follows certain laws. What you have to do now is to monitor whether there are nobles tampering with materials. Robb knew that this monitoring agency was still a little beyond the cognition of this era, and he didn't expect Earl Blackwood to do it in a short time. But things always have to start somewhere. Start by investigating the corruption of nobles, and gradually expand the power of this agency, spreading from military corruption to other places, and then from other places to all aspects of noble life. This may be a long process, which will take several years to slowly settle. Today is Robb's first step. You should understand that, if you can really do what I said, your reputation and status will also become unique in the kingdom. This is the agreement between us. Blackwood looked into Robb's eyes, and felt for the first time that the blue eyes revealed a chilling breath. He weighed it in his mind and soon realized that His Majesty was not here to discuss with him. There might be room for negotiation on other positions, but after listening to Robb's plan today, this was the only way to choose. He could only nod. I will definitely not disappoint His Majesty's expectations. Robb raised his glass and clinked it with Lord Blackwood. Do a good job. We still have a long time. Blackwood drank the wine in his glass. At this time, Robb suddenly thought of something and added, by the way, the name of this team should be Wolfguard. I believe this name will become the most terrifying name in the kingdom. Lord Blackwood said from the bottom of his heart. After Lord Blackwood left, Robb picked up a pen and paper and began to write a letter to Lord Serwyn, who was stationed in Hill. Robb couldn't give all the responsibility of the Wolf Guard to one person. Lord Blackwood, the Minister of Counter-Revolution, was in the open. He would push it slowly according to his own wishes, just like boiling a frog in warm water, and establish the system of the Wolf Guard before everyone could react. Then Lord Serwyn was the second person in charge that Robb had placed in the Wolf Guard. He was in the dark, observing everyone's every move. After writing the letter, Robb finally breathed a sigh of relief. After defeating the foreign enemies and reorganizing the administrative systems of the North and the Riverlands, the situation was completely stabilized. Next, Robb focused all his attention on his navy. The day of the expedition to the Yatan Highlands was not far away. Chapter 80, Remarks on the Release. Dear readers, this book will be available on the shelves at 12 noon on August 18th, so tomorrow's 2 updates will be concentrated at noon. Please forgive me. I asked the editor, and now this book has 4,000 collections and 750 follow-ups. It's the first time for a newcomer to write a book and put it on the shelves, so I'm still a little excited. I don't know what to say, but I just want to ask all the readers to support me. If there are any shortcomings, please forgive me. Even if I can't help a lot, please help me. Please give me the first order, which is still very important for newcomers. Then, please take care of the first order. The update plan after the release is as follows. There will still be 2 updates a day, but the number of words will be increased from 4,000 to 6,000. Tomorrow, it will be updated with 10,000 words, and the day after tomorrow, the first order will exceed 500. After that, 1 chapter will be added for every 500 monthly tickets in the month, and 1 chapter will be added for every 10,000 points of reward. Finally, thank you all for your support along the way. Chapter 81, Cityfall. In Earl Blackfish's military camp, the soldiers were still immersed in the news from the previous few days. Master Knight, have you heard that so-and-so was canonized as a knight by His Majesty Robin Reveron? I know. Damn, that guy bought his military merit points from me. He exchanged 3 slaves for 200 points. I regret it so much. You made a profit, didn't you? 3 slaves get 300 points. He's a master knight. I would be willing to exchange it even for 100 slaves. Ah, it's fate. He's a blacksmith. His family has saved so much money for generations. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to exchange so many military merit points. Hey, when can we fight again? The Golden Tooth City has been under siege for several days, and Earl Blackfish hasn't given the order yet. Still thinking about fighting? Don't you want to live? Whoever reaches the top of the city first will be rewarded with 5,000 military merit points. If I make 5,000 points, I will be a master knight directly. When you see me, you have to kneel down and salute me. Bullshit. Which master knight wants others to kneel down to him? The siege of the Golden Tooth has lasted for half a month. Robb and Sir Blackfish led 2 groups of troops, one in the east and one in the west, to block all the roads out of the Golden Tooth. Robb's tactic was to surround the enemy and attack the reinforcement, so he was not in a hurry to attack the Golden Tooth. Because Tywin could not focus all his energy on the Golden Tooth now, Stannis, the second son of the Deer family, had gathered the army of the Stormlands, since he murdered his brother Renly. In addition, he was a Duke of Dragonstone, and his number of people jumped to the top of all the armies. His army was heading towards King's Landing, and Tywin had to go all out to deal with him. But Robb's looting made his heart bleed, especially the Golden Tooth. This city was not only a dangerous gateway to the west and the Riverlands, but also had an extremely large gold mine. Tywin and his men could not sit idly by and watch the Golden Tooth be given to Robb for free. Especially the Lord of the Golden Tooth, Earl Lefford. He personally led the army to return to the Golden Tooth for reinforcement. At this time, in Robb's military camp, Little John received Edgemure's battle report and came to report to Robb joyfully, "Your Majesty, good news. Good news. Logistics Minister Sir Edgemure and Lightning Lord Beric Dondarrion defeated the Lannister army at the Red Fork." When Tywin's lackeys heard that the Golden Tooth was under siege, they were as anxious as dogs that couldn't eat meat, and they were eager to cross the Red Fork. Sir Edgemure relied on the forest terrain to hide his army and attacked them halfway across the river. Although the fighting power of those peasants was not strong, the members of the Brotherhood without banners of the Lightning Lord fought bravely and killed many enemies. Lord Robos Bolton, the artisan minister stationed at Harrenhal, also cooperated with the outside world and came to support from Harrenhal. Our army has reaped a lot of rewards. The enemy's Earl Leo Lefford was drowned, and Sir Adam Marbrand and Sir Lyle Craig Hall were captured. After listening to the battle report, Robb smiled slightly, that Earl Lefford was too eager to save the Golden Tooth. He was the only noble who died in this battle. Little John had a look of admiration on his face. Yes, your majesty. This is what you said. Attack the enemy's vital points. The enemy will certainly rush to rescue, and we can take the opportunity to choose a suitable place to fight the enemy. This is war. Robb waved his hand. Has the body of Earl Lefford been salvaged? It has been sent. Robb pondered for a while. Send it to the Golden Tooth City. Many people of the Lefford family died in this battle. Now that Earl Lefford is dead, they will be in chaos. Inside the Golden Tooth City, the members of the Lefford family looked at the body of Earl Lefford and almost collapsed on the spot. What happened outside? Why did the Earl die like this? I don't know. We don't know. None of the spies sent out came back, and the Raven was shot down as soon as it flew out of the tower. It has been half a month, and there is no shadow of reinforcement. What should we do? The food has been eaten. What should we do? What should we do? For the defenders in the Golden Tooth City, at this time, the outside world was a fog except for the army of the north. They lost the ability to communicate with the outside world and knew nothing about the battle outside. The food in the city had been eaten up, and they could only squeeze out some food for the guards on duty so that they could stand on the city wall to confuse the enemy. In fact, the other defenders were so hungry that they couldn't even lift their spears. Under such circumstances, they received the body of their lord. Not collapsing on the spot was already considered a strong psychological endurance. Someone spoke cautiously. Didn't Father always provide logistics for Lord Tywin? Father has been killed, so Lord Tywin. Shut up. Don't talk nonsense. Let's think about what to do now. After the Battle of Oxford, our army in the west was completely broken up. It is impossible to expect support from the west. Father was also killed. There are troops from the north everywhere outside. There is no need to count on support from the east. According to you, we are doomed. The terrain of Casterly Rock is dangerous, and there are still many defenders. We can break through to Casterly Rock. We can't stay in Golden Tooth. If this goes on, we will all starve to death. Okay, I agree. We will set off tonight. The body of Earl Lefford made the defenders inside Golden Tooth City in chaos. At this time, they had no intention of guarding the gate for the west. They just wanted to leave here quickly and have a full meal. They chose to break out to the west, where was the army led by Earl Blackfish. To the east was the legendary invincible young wolf Lord Robb. They tacitly did not mention it, just as if the east was a cliff, and they didn't need to consider it at all. That night, the defenders of Golden Tooth City gathered together. The members of the Lefford family scavenged the last bit of food from somewhere, so that the team could eat half full. They had no choice. If they asked these hungry defenders who couldn't even lift their spears to fight, it would be more convenient to surrender directly. Fight out. There will be food. The members of the Lefford family didn't say anything about wealth and glory, just 2 words, food. The defenders of Golden Tooth City were glowing green at this time, and they were full of energy. They vowed to rush out and then find a hotel to eat a good meal. Creaky, the heavy city wall gate was opened. The defenders of Golden Tooth City were afraid of attracting attention, so they didn't light torches for the time being. They grabbed the corners of the clothes of the people in front of them to prevent them from getting separated. Under the moonlight, they carefully groped forward. Just after they walked a few hundred meters away, they saw the tent of the Earl of Blackfish. There were troops from the north everywhere in front of them. They were too many to go around. They would definitely be discovered by the spies and had to fight their way out. Kill. Kill. The members of the Lefford family shouted, lit torches, and rushed forward with their men. Behind them, the defenders of the Golden Tooth City also roared. However, before they approached the camp, their steps slowed down one by one. Bang bang bang. The camp in front of them, which had been dead silent, suddenly became brightly lit, and torches were lit one by one, illuminating them nowhere to hide. The neatly dressed soldiers were ready for battle, and their eyes looking at them revealed an inexplicable anger. A monk in a red robe stood at the front of the team, muttering something, and then suddenly raised a long sword in his hand. Then, all the soldiers from the north raised their weapons. At this moment, their weapons were ignited with raging flames. For the king of the north. For the protector of the riverlands. After the Blackfish Earl shouted the slogan, he brandished his long sword and rushed forward, followed by the rest of the soldiers. The defenders of Golden Tooth City were left with only despair. They wanted to run back to Golden Tooth City and put up a last-ditch fight, but they were surprised to find that the other side's running speed was beyond imagination. Is this still an infantry? Why can infantry run so fast? In the blink of an eye, they were in front of them. They saw the other side's mouth cursing angrily, and they could not hear clearly what they were cursing until they got closer. You bastards who deserve to be traitors. How dare you come out? The military merit points for being the first to reach the city gate were all taken away by these traitorous bastards, and the Night Master was also gone. Nothing. Who said it was gone? Kill 100, capture 100 alive. Quick, quick, quick. Don't squeeze me. Under the reflection of the flames on the weapons, the faces of every soldier in the north were flushed, and the expressions of excitement and greed were clearly visible. They kept rushing towards the defenders of the Golden Tooth, and it seemed that nothing could stop them. This scene was extremely terrifying. Not to mention people with weapons. Even if a group of pigs rushed towards you like crazy, you would be scared. The defenders of the Golden Tooth and the members of the Leford family were desperate and finally gave up resistance. At the same time, Robb's army to the east of the Golden Tooth, seeing the fire in the west and the signal sent by Earl Blackfish, Robb knew that the matter was done, so he waved his flag and asked his side to start climbing the city. Robb didn't need to do it this time because it was too smooth. Little John, Daisy Mormont, Clay Severn, Eddard Carstark and Greenbird, the 5 captains of the Wolf Cavalry, dressed neatly and held torches, and rushed towards the Golden Tooth. This time they did not encounter any resistance, and Robb's army entered the city easily without bloodshed. After entering the city, Robb's team immediately dispersed and began to loot supplies. There is no food in the Golden Tooth, but there is still a lot of gold and inedible decorations here. After these are handed over, they can be counted as military merits. Little John took a huge machete and jumped back and forth in the city and finally found the place where the Leford family hung the flag. It was a flag with a sky blue background, a golden stake in the middle, and the sun hanging in the sky. Little John didn't hesitate and chopped it down directly. The Golden Tooth is broken. From now on, the gates of the Westerlands are wide open to Robb. The supplies looted from the Westerlands will be transported back to Riverrun unimpeded. The entire northern part of the Westerlands is Robb's back garden and supply station. The most important thing is that the north of the Westerlands and the seaside city are in Robb's control, and these 2 places can completely surround the Iron Islands. There are 2 more chapters today. Thanks to Kite Zire and Bookfriend 202308031626274661 for the rewards, and thank you readers for your monthly tickets and first orders. Chapter 82, Shocking Change. When Catelyn came back from Highgarden, she was surprised to find that everything in Riverrun seemed so orderly. Large quantities of supplies attracted desperate merchants from Westeros. The nobles of the Riverlands worked hard with their subjects. Soldiers from the north dominated Robb's army, and they gained a lot of military merit points in the war to plunder the west. Although everyone wanted to become a noble, not everyone could control their desires. Many people couldn't help looking at the wine, slaves, and women that could be exchanged. Some soldiers with family backgrounds began to pay for those military merit points, and those who got the money began to squander. With consumption behavior, money began to flow like water. Once money began to flow, it began to increase like a cornucopia. Riverrun is now unprecedentedly prosperous. Seeing these scenes, Catelyn felt a sense of inexplicable loss in her heart. My son Robb has grown up and can do something without the help of his parents. No, he is His Majesty now. His vassals will admire him. I can't treat him as a child anymore. This will affect his dignity. Look at these people, the smiles on their faces. Who would have thought that a few months ago, Riverrun was almost burned to charcoal by the Lannisters? Catelyn was filled with emotion. While looking at the newly renovated Reveron, she entered the castle under the escort of Sir Wendell Manderley. Under the guidance of the servants, Catelyn came to the study. She saw Robb talking to Lord Jason Lannister and did not rush in. Robb was instructing his propaganda minister, "Don't train those soldiers who have been knighted yet. Take them to various camps for a tour. The soldiers in Harrenhal, Moat Cailin, and the Streamlands don't know our policies yet." "I understand. I'll make arrangements right away." After the Battle of the Golden Tooth, the propaganda minister Lord Mallister completely understood how important this position Robb appointed him to was. "Look at those crazy soldiers." Lord Mallister estimated that, even if the front was the legendary strongest golden group, those soldiers would not hesitate to rush to fight. Robb gave another order: "The ships I seized will be transferred to your territory, Seaward City, and you should communicate with the people there." Lord Mallister kept Robb's arrangements in mind and took out a pen and paper to write them down. Catelyn knocked on the study door, only after seeing Robb finish talking to the propaganda minister. Robb looked up and saw that it was Catelyn who came back. His mood improved. "Thank you for your hard work during this period. I'm the foreign minister appointed by you. Of course, I have to do what you ordered." Catelyn looked at her grown-up child and said with sadness in her tone, "I don't want to be a queen mother or a minister. I just want to be a good mother and see my children safe and sound, no matter what the cost." Robb wanted to comfort her, but Catelyn was already talking to herself. "After Renly's death, I also figured it out. If I don't do a good job as a minister, you won't be safe." Robb was very happy that Catelyn could figure this out. It seemed that his successive victories and the results of governing Reveron made her change her previous ideas. "Father's ashes have been sent back to Winterfell. You can go back and see them." Catelyn wanted to go back to see Ned, but she couldn't leave yet. "I have a few things to tell you." Catelyn told him the inside story of Renly's death and her negotiations with the Queen of Thorns. Catelyn didn't write a letter to send back these, for fear that the ravens or spies would be caught and leak the news. Robb heard her concerns and comforted her. "That is the dark magic cast by the followers of the Lord of Light. We have similar warlocks in our team now, so you don't have to worry. As for Highgarden's concerns, I will send someone to write them back. Tell them that communication will not be a problem in the future. I will give one of the islands in the Iron Islands as a betrothal gift for our marriage." Catelyn's heart tightened again when she learned that her son would still go to war. But she knew that this son was going to do the right thing. Robb eased the atmosphere and said, "Sir Wendell Manderley is back with you, right? Since you now have the loyalty of Knight Brienne, I called Sir Wendell back. Are you going to let him train the navy for you?" Catelyn quickly guessed Robb's idea. "Yes, but not just them. The Manderley family is loyal to the King of the North. Although the White Harbor they control is the smallest city among the major ports on the continent of Westeros, it is much better at naval battles than those other landlubbers in the north. Currently, among Robb's men, only a few nobles in the Riverlands understand naval warfare. Together with the soldiers sent by the Manderley family, they could only barely train a decent navy. But it was still unrealistic to rely on these people to attack the Iron Islands. Robb needed more professional pirates." Robb explained, "You should know the news of Theon's rebellion. That child." Catelyn sighed. "To be honest, I'm not surprised. He always makes me feel uncomfortable, but your father and you have always trusted him. That's in the past. He attacked Winterfell and was captured. I used him as bait to attract his sister Asha to rescue him. Now both the brother and sister are in my hands." Catelyn couldn't help but admire her son's means and asked, "There are only Bran and Rickon in Winterfell now. How did they do it?" Robb was a little embarrassed. "I called Jon Snow back." Catelyn's face flashed a trace of anger and then immediately turned into sadness. She still thought Jon was Ned's illegitimate son and had always disliked him. But now Ned is dead. Everything about him makes Catelyn miss him, and she has also let go of the illegitimate child. "That's good. He can take care of your two brothers." Catelyn asked, "Asha, is she willing to help you train the navy? I threatened her with Theon's life." Catelyn didn't know Asha's character, but she was a little uncertain. "Although she is willing to save her brother, she may not be willing to help you fight her father." Robb nodded in agreement. She probably won't help me fight her father, but her father is dead. She should help me fight the enemy who killed her father now. Catelyn was surprised. King Balon is dead. After the Battle of the Fever River, Iron Islands, seized and thrown, a servant came to report, King Balon, your brother is back. King Balon, the Lord of the Iron Islands, who once again proclaimed himself king, turned livid, threw the cup in his hand, and the cheap wine spilled all over the floor. Damn bastard. He still has the nerve to come to see me? Why doesn't he sink into the sea like those ships? In the Battle of the Heat Wave, Balon ordered his brother to lead the attack, but was defeated by Robb, and lost dozens of ships. When the battle report from the front came back, Balon was so angry that his heart was bleeding. The servant saw Balon's angry look, and knew that he was angry. His voice suddenly became much softer, and he said timidly, Lord Balon, it's not the lord who went to the war, but another lord who came back. He is also your brother. Euron? King Balon instantly remembered his disgusting brother, and then flew into a rage. How dare he come back? I made him swear that unless I died, he would never return to the Iron Islands. How dare he break his oath? The servant whispered, Lord Euron brought back a lot of ships, and most of them were warships, about 20 to 30. Balon calmed down immediately. He was a madman, but he also knew the importance of warships to him. If he tricked this brother in, and then King Balon waved his hand, call him in. I want to ask this beast what he has been doing all these years. Euron Greyjoy's fleet stayed outside the Iron Islands, and he came to his brother King Balon's residence alone. Although Euron was handsome, he was blind in one eye, which was covered with an eye patch. The other blue eye revealed cunning and cruelty. He was wearing strange armor, and everyone could see that the armor was extraordinary. All the weapons were taken away by King Balon. When he saw King Balon, he greeted him warmly. Long time no see, my dear brother. King Balon looked at him with disgust. Don't put on such an ugly face. It really makes me sick. It's just a salt concubine. Brother, you are really magnanimous. How can you be the Lord of the Iron Islands like this? Balon was instantly furious. I said, you are never allowed to come back. Euron corrected, before you die. King Balon looked at his men, and they were ready to take action. Balon didn't want to talk to this madman at all. He just wanted to kill him now, and take over the warship he brought back. Euron's warship seemed to be called Serenity, because he cut the tongues of all the crew members, hence the name. But it doesn't matter, they will all be his soon. These ships are enough to make up for his losses in the Heatwave River. Brother, you are still so anxious. Euron's face was not panicked at all. He patted his armor. Do you know what material this armor is made of? What does it have to do with me? Balon said in a rough voice. Made of Valyrian steel. After Euron finished speaking, Balon's face instantly showed a greedy look. Euron seemed not to see Balon's eyes. You know, after being expelled by you, I traveled around the world. In another continent, I found the ruins of Valyria. My dear brother, you can never imagine what is there. Balon said anxiously, Valyria? What are you talking about? All those who have been there have never come back. You said you have been there. You are talking nonsense. What is there? Tell me. Euron laughed. It doesn't matter to tell you. I found a dragon egg there. My dear brother, you have heard that in another continent, the remnants of the Targaryen family have hatched dragons, and they will be back soon. Dragon egg. Balon was already a little confused at this time, and his eyes were blinded by interests. Because of the Targaryen family's rule for more than 300 years, the continent of Westeros has an extraordinary worship of dragons. Hearing about dragon eggs and hatching dragons, Balon instantly dreamed of the scene of becoming the king of the Seven Kingdoms. Euron laughed. Brother, I was going to give the dragon egg to the faceless man, and I would come back after killing you. But now, I'm so lucky. Guess what I encountered again? Balon's face turned cold in an instant. You want to kill me? Why, faceless man? King Balon didn't want to talk nonsense with this disgusting brother anymore, especially since he said in public that he wanted to kill him. If he didn't kill him, what prestige would he have in the hearts of the Iron people? As for whether what Euron said was true, after he killed him, he would find all the answers from his men. Dragon egg? That thing can only be mine. The guards on the side stepped forward and wanted to catch Euron. At this time, Euron laughed. I forgot to tell you, that I learned some black magic before, which was taught to me by some disgusting wizards. Balin said disdainfully, what black magic? Playing tricks. But he soon couldn't speak. He saw black hair coming out of Euron's body, and those black hair turned into human hands, and grew on Euron. Euron turned into a freak with 10 black arms. As soon as those arms touched the guards, they covered their necks, their faces turned red, as if someone was choking them, their eyes popped out, and they soon died. What the hell? Balin was frightened by the scene in front of him. He stood up suddenly, and wanted to escape. Euron blocked the entrance to the hall, so he could only leave from the back, and run to the study. Euron followed Balin slowly, and the black arms on his body disappeared. My stupid brother, I won't kill you. After all, you are my flesh and blood. How could I treat you like this? You are precious. So, you should dedicate yourself to that lord. Balin fled to the drawbridge, and through the drawbridge, he could reach his study. He was going to run to the other side. As long as Euron dared to catch up, he would cut off the drawbridge and let Euron fall to his death in the sea. Euron watched Balin escape to the suspension bridge, and couldn't help laughing. You still don't understand, brother. The times have changed. The wolf in the north, the dragon in another continent, the Lord of Light, the Faceless, and the old gods you don't know. The power of magic has awakened, and you are still sleeping in a dream. You lunatic. Although King Balin was running away, he didn't forget to curse. Euron's face was covered with a trace of pity. Then, goodbye, my disgusting brother. What? King Balin hadn't finished speaking when suddenly, there was a sound of waves breaking through the air under the suspension bridge. Boom. Water splashed and waves rolled. A huge tentacle stretched out, and swept towards King Balin. It was golden all over, just like the flag of the Greyjoy family. On the other side, Euron had already knelt on the ground devoutly, muttering something. Thanks to MOZ for the reward. Chapter 83 Gift Giving. Reveron. Since he had a minister, Robb's burden has been lightened. Today, Robb was free and sat on the throne, stroking the two-handed giant sword in his hand. Ice. As a symbol of the Stark family, ice can only be worn and used by Starks who have inherited the title or the throne. Robb doesn't care about its symbolic meaning. What he cares about is the raw material of ice, Valyrian steel. Valyria is a region on another continent. It is a place full of magic and legends. It is said that the Targaryen family with dragons comes from Valyria. Valyrian steel is a magical substance created by the Valyrians through special means. Just as Robb thought before, ice can reduce the mental consumption of some magic, and it will also have a certain amplification effect on spells. Start. Robb waved the ice, and the blue magic light behind him flashed, and several blue long swords composed of magic appeared behind Robb. As long as Robb wants, these long swords can fly out and stab the enemy. The consumption of mental power has decreased, and the speed of recovery is also accelerating. I don't know if it's my illusion, but since I came to this world, my mental power has recovered faster and faster. Robb dispersed the magic sword behind him and closed his eyes to feel his own mental power. It should be that the magic level of Westeros is recovering, similar to the aura mentioned in the previous life. No, magic is reviving. The Lord of Light and his opponent, the God of Cold, are recovering, and dragons can also be hatched. Perhaps because of my arrival, the magic element of this world are becoming more active. Robb doesn't know what the truth is now, and can only rely on guessing. But his strength is constantly improving, which is a good thing. The mental power is recovering faster and faster, and the consumption is getting lower and lower, because of Valyrian steel, and Robb's strength will become stronger and stronger. When Robb can release meteor spells without limit, all the gods on the entire continent combined cannot stop his steps. I'm missing a staff. Maybe I can make one out of Valyrian steel. The ruins of Valyria seem to be quite famous. People have been exploring there, but no one has ever come back. I can go and see it myself when I have time. Just as Robb was thinking, the scouts under Lord Blackfish and the wolf guards under Lord Wildraven sent intelligence messages. Robb put aside the matter of Valyrian steel for the time being and began to read the intelligence. After Euron ascended the Seaston throne, he severely punished those who supported Asher and Balin's other brother, and killed several captains who resisted fiercely. Now they are preparing to gather an army to rob the Reach. Tywin and the Imp had joined forces to marry Princess Myrcella, Cersei's daughter, to Dorne, hoping to gain political support. Stannis has assembled an army and is preparing to attack King's Landing from the sea. It is said that he has a red witch under his command who can cast all kinds of dark magic and kill anyone who dares to stop him. Recently, a belief called the Lord of Light has spread in the south. With the support of Stannis, some nobles have burned the statues of the seven gods and converted to the Lord of Light. It's a pity that there is no intelligence from another continent and the whereabouts of the Dragon Mother cannot be grasped. Robb finally feels a little like an emperor now. He can know what is happening in the world without leaving his house in Riverrun, although it cost a lot of money. Although the changes in other parts of the world are drastic, they have little impact on Robb. His current goal is very clear, that is, to take over the Iron Islands. First of all, it was the question of naval training. I had never been involved in this aspect. Your Majesty, Sir Wendell has arrived with the Manderley family. Your Majesty, Asher Greyjoy has been escorted outside the city. Just as Robb was thinking, two groups of servants brought good news. Robb first met with the Manderley family. As the strongest vassal in the north, Robb must pay attention to them. Soon, Wendell Manderley walked into the study with 7 or 8 brothers. After Wendell Manderley no longer guarded Catelyn, he was mainly responsible for selecting sea soldiers. After the Manderley family members arrived, they also contacted Wendell first, and then came to see His Majesty Robb. Wendell held a gift box in his hand and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, Earl Manderley is ill and cannot come," but as soon as he received your edict, he immediately sent all the children of the family to help. Robb smiled. This time Earl Manderley is very active. Wendell smiled a little awkwardly. The last time Robb issued a call for troops, the Manderley family's performance was only fair. Compared with the perfunctory nobles in the Streamlands and the Tomb of the Ancients, they were certainly okay. But compared with the nobles in Stark, Severn, and Bear Island, their performance was not so impressive. Especially Bear Island. It is said that there are no more than 100 adult men and women on Bear Island, and almost all the fighting forces followed the young Wolf Lord to the south. So when the cake was divided, the Manderley family seemed very embarrassed. The big pieces of the cake were divided, leaving only some scraps for the Manderley family. Although it was not bad and there was nothing to criticize, the Manderley family was the richest family in the north. Apart from anything else, compared with the bitter and cold place of Bear Island, White Harbor could at least buy 5 Bear Islands. But what about now? After fighting several great victories with the young Wolf Lord, Bear Island has eaten a lot of meat. Not only was he named the Minister of Military Law, but one of his children became a new noble and was assigned to the territory of the West. The overall strength caught up in an instant. Robb's rewards and punishments were clear. The Manderley family got as much as they worked. Although they made a lot of money, Robb gave them all the gold, livestock and materials they should have. But did the Manderley family lack these? The big families were all dividing the territories, the positions of ministers in the kingdom, and sharing the power. It was really a bit ugly for him to share the money with the small families. So when he heard that Robb was going to build a navy, Earl Manderley suddenly woke up. He realized that whether the Manderley family could make up for their mistakes depended on this time. So he sent everyone in the family over and told them to help the King of the North do things well and not to slack off. Wendell raised the gift box in his hand a little higher. "This is a gift from my father, to congratulate His Majesty on taking the Golden Tooth City and getting another gold mine." The servant beside Robb took it and carefully opened it to show Robb. Robb glanced at it and exclaimed, "This gift is even heavier than the one I gave when I ascended the throne." Inside was a steel sword. It looked ordinary, but Robb could recognize it at a glance. It was made of Valyrian steel. For such a steel sword, Lord Manderley must have shed a lot of blood. Wendell said respectfully, "My father hopes that Your Majesty will not misunderstand. The Manderley family is definitely the most loyal supporter of Stark. No matter when, as long as Your Majesty gives an order, the Manderley family will charge for Your Majesty." Robb had no way to refuse this generous gift. It just so happened that he wanted to make a Valyrian steel staff, and now it was delivered to his door. "Then I will accept this gift as a testimony of the friendship between our two families." Wendell was delighted. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Your Majesty." Robb was a little emotional. This is power. When others give you gifts, they have to beg for it, for fear that you will not accept it. Before letting them leave, Robb reminded them, you will have to worry about the Navy. I will go to see your achievements in a month. Wendell said firmly, I will never let His Majesty down. After sending the Manderley family away, Robb ordered Asha to be brought in. Asha looked unruly. Even if she was pushed, she was not afraid. She would break free from the guard's arms from time to time. After arriving at Robb's study, Asha saw the so-called King of the North sitting on a chair. Humph, Asha snorted in her heart. He looked like a pretty boy. Although he was quite majestic, he was still a child after all. For some reason, although she was indignant in her heart, she was a little more honest in her actions, and did not dare to be presumptuous again. Robb looked at Asha, exuding a different aura from when he met the Manderley family. He looked down on her, and said in a cold tone, your father is dead. Asha was a little confused. What? Killed by your uncle Euron? Robb told Asha the news he knew, so that she could understand her current situation. Asha was about to speak, but Robb raised his hand slightly and used gravity magic to press her to the ground. Asha looked terrified. She wanted to speak and curse, but her lungs felt a sharp pain and she couldn't say a word. Listen to me. I can give you a chance to take revenge. If you help me train the Navy, you can follow me to the Iron Islands, and your brother Theon will not die. If you agree, I will go to work immediately. If you don't agree, you and your brother will die now. You have 10 seconds to choose. After Robb finished speaking, Asha felt that the restraints on her body were loosened. She immediately stood up, panting, and stared at Robb with doubtful eyes. A second later, Asha said decisively, I will help you do the work. Robb smiled. Smart man, you have a month. After a month, I will go to check your results. Don't let me down. At this time, Asha was certainly not really surrendering. She didn't even know if what Robb said was true. Live first and see what's going on outside. Make plans for what will happen next. Asha's face was calm. Then, I will help you. Your Majesty? Robb waved his hand casually, and Asha ran out. Leaving the study, Asha whistled briskly. The King of the Greenland is so easy to fool. He believed what I said casually. Ha ha ha. What is this? Asha was not happy for more than a minute, and she felt something strange on her hand. She raised her palm, and saw that a red, enchanting red spot appeared on her palm without knowing when. The red spot was like a flower, but it exuded a terrifying breath. Asha's face suddenly darkened. When? What the hell is this? Thanks to, for the reward. Chapter 84 Legion. After Asha left, Robb continued to think about the attack on the Iron Islands in the study. I planted the Scarlet Corruption on Asha. Now her life is in her own hands. She can't make any waves. But I can't just assume that she will do her best for me. I still need to observe more. The Westerlands Crag and the Riverlands Seaward. These two places form a siege on the Iron Islands. They can be used as temporary naval bases. It just so happens that Asha and the Manderley family are responsible for one base each. 53 longships were captured in the Battle of the Fever River. Together with the ships that captured Asha and Theon later, there are more than 80 ships in total. The fact that Euron from the Iron Islands came back to usurp the throne seems to be a little different from my memory. Is the butterfly effect starting to work? After sorting out his thoughts, Robb looked at the map again and prepared to put the main forces in the crag. Most of Robb's fleet and navy will be gathered here, and some small troops will be stationed in seaward to support and encircle and suppress scattered enemies. This is done for many reasons. Now the captives of the Ironborn are all mining for Robb in the gold mines of the west. Robb is considering recruiting some people to help train the navy. They will definitely go to the nearby rock. So Asha can't go to the rock for training. Otherwise the captive soldiers and the leaders will be mixed together, and there is a risk of rebellion. The Manderley family is his subordinate, and the navy they trained is the absolute main force. They train in the rock, and the rock naturally becomes the main attack point. After choosing the naval base, Robb began to think about an important reform, the establishment of the Kingdom Legion. It's a bit incredible to say that Robb, the Guardian of the North, doesn't actually have many troops. On the surface, Robb has tens of thousands of soldiers and horses, winning battles, and is famous. But in fact, those soldiers are not Robb's. They are all Robb's men. If all his men run away one day, Robb will instantly become a commander without troops. For example, in the original plot, after the Stark family left, their soldiers were also taken away together. At least King's Landing still has the Golden Cloaks, an army that only obeys the king's orders, but our majestic king of the north, Robb, only has 500 wolf riders and more than 1,000 soldiers recruited from Winterfell. That is, the appeal of the Stark family in the north is too strong, and almost all the younger brothers follow the big brother. If it were in other dukedoms, the Stark family would have been overthrown long ago. For example, the Lannister family in the west, Tywin's father was often attacked by his younger brothers because he was too cowardly, and this was when the Lannister family was at its peak. With Robb's current reputation and power, of course, this situation cannot be allowed to continue. It's time to consider the establishment of the Legion. 5 Wolf Rider Centurions have experienced battles with me and have learned a lot of military theory from me. It's enough for them to hold important positions in the Legion. When Robb founded the Wolf Rider team before, he had already thought about the future plan of the Wolf Rider. The Wolf Riders are highly loyal and have brilliant records. They have the highest reputation and the best treatment among all of Robb's troops. It can be said that all soldiers are eager to become Robb's personal guard wolf cavalry. This has reached the standard Robb needs, and then the next step is to send the soldiers who graduated from the wolf cavalry to important positions in the Legion. In Robb's imagination, the status of the wolf cavalry should be the same as that of the Huangpu military academy. This will not only improve the combat effectiveness of the Legion, but also strengthen his control over the Legion. Thinking of this, Robb said to the guards around him, "Go and call the 2 recruiting ministers." After waiting for a while, the 2 earls, Great John and Rickard Stark, hurried over. They exuded a faint scent of perfume and their faces were a little flushed. Robb saw it and chuckled. "Going to have fun, Your Majesty." The 2 looked even more embarrassed. Although they were recruiting ministers, Robb's recent work focus was on the Navy. They were good at recruiting, but they really knew nothing about the Navy. These things were done by the Manderley family, so they were idle. In addition, Robb rewarded them a lot, and they had money and free time, so they naturally went to prostitutes. Seeing this, Robb was silent for a moment. He had forgotten about the industry. This kind of industry should be run by his subordinates. To make money, no. Robb, who was almost led astray by the 2, reacted and quickly corrected the topic. "I called you here to discuss one thing. I want to form a legion. The soldiers of this legion no longer belong to any lord. They are directly responsible to me." The 2 looked at each other and felt that there was nothing wrong with this matter. "Your Majesty should indeed have an army. There were 7 kingdoms in ancient times. Your Majesty will soon rule the 2 kingdoms of the north and the Iron Islands Riverlands. The royal family needs an army. Previously, the Iron Islands and the Riverlands together were one of the 7 kingdoms. So even if some people did not understand Robb's true intention of attacking the Iron Islands, they did not think there was anything wrong with Robb's actions. Robb thought about it and decided to test the waters first. This legion needs 10,000 people. As for the name of the legion, let's call it the Blood Wolf Army. Go to various camps to recruit recently. I want an elite division, so be strict when selecting people. Robb's troops were scattered in many places, including Riverrun, Harrenhal, Moat Cailin, the Streamlands, and the Tombstones of the Ancients. There were more than 35,000 people in total, plus the river dwellers who were sent back to farm, so it was relatively easy to select 10,000 people. Even if the recruitment was directly from those lords this time, Robb was not as immature as when he first asked Lord Serwyn for people. "I'm going to bring everyone to eat meat. You can't just not contribute at all, right?" Greetjon and Lord Stark looked at each other and felt that, although this task was a bit difficult, it was a bit embarrassing to communicate with the lords. But this was the order of His Majesty, and they could only bite the bullet and do it. At this time, Robb took a sip of wine and said faintly, "I think it is better to give young people a chance to appoint the commander and deputy commander. I have 5 centurions under my command, and I want to pick a few to serve." As soon as Robb said this, the eyes of the 2 earls lit up instantly. "What does your Majesty mean by this?" "This is to give his son a chance. Especially Earl Greetjon, his most caring and favorite son is Little Jon, who is most like him. When Robb said he wanted to reward his son, Greedjon declined and exchanged all the rewards for resources to pave the way for Little Jon. Now Robb has thrown out the position of commander of the Legion. Isn't this a vivid hint? Eddard Stark was also very tempted. He put his favorite eldest son by his side, but Eddard Stark was also his favorite. Eddard's status has been greatly improved after being awarded the title and territory. If he can serve as the commander of the Legion, the reputation of their Stark family will be further improved. At this time, Robb is already the king, but he has only one duke, Duke Tully. In the future, there will definitely be more dukedoms. If the Stark family becomes stronger, it is possible that they will become the second duke. The two men immediately changed their previous embarrassment and became high-spirited in an instant. Great Jon spoke first. Your Majesty, don't worry. This is the first legion of the kingdom. We will definitely select carefully and ensure that they are all the best soldiers. I will see who dares to fool around. I will first take out 100 elite cavalry from my own home. Eddard Stark also spoke anxiously. Your Majesty, I'm willing to take out 200 cavalry, 3 horses each. I will take out 300. Both of them knew that the competition this time might not be fierce. After all, the Greenbeard of Tyrosh would definitely not serve as the Legion commander. The remaining 4 Centurions will be selected as Legion commanders and multiple deputy Legion commanders. The pressure will not be too great, but they also know that the difference between the Legion commander and the deputy Legion commander is a world of difference. Robb interrupted the two people's comparison. Okay, what do I need so many elite cavalry for? I can't afford to support them. You should mainly recruit infantry, and 2,000 lightly equipped cavalry will be enough. Before the support of Highgarden, Robb really couldn't afford to support too many elite heavy cavalry, and the 500 wolf cavalry under his command were just right. When the supplies from Highgarden arrived, Robb would consider expanding the scale of the wolf cavalry to 1,000. Your Majesty, don't worry, I will definitely get this done. Your Majesty, just look at my performance. The two earls left with their beards glaring at each other. The servants outside who didn't understand what was going on were a little strange. Just now, the two earls were good brothers who had fun together, but now they are like enemies? After the two left, Robb looked at the deployment of the troops and sighed. Alas, spending money is like running water. The army does not engage in production, just being stationed and not moving. Eating, drinking, defecating, and urinating all cost money. Now Robb has to train a new navy, form a blood wolf army, and secretly cultivate wolf guards, which has increased the expenses a lot. Now we need to increase revenue and reduce expenditure, so we should increase revenue first. Trade in Riverrun is booming now. All kinds of slave traders and war merchants know that I have gold mines and supplies, so they all come to join in the fun. It's a good opportunity to develop it. Robb thought about it and soon found a candidate for business. The matter of industry should be handed over to Uncle Edgemere, the Minister of Logistics. I remember that he also likes to have fun and is very familiar with this industry. This is exactly what he wants. Although Uncle Edgemere is not good at fighting, he is kind and has good relationships with the lords in the river area. It is perfect for him to be in charge of logistics and business. So it's the same old saying, everyone has their own strengths. As long as they are placed in the right position, they can play their advantages. Although it costs a lot of money, Robb does not feel anxious. He can clearly feel that his framework is constantly improving, and the initial investment will be able to recover the cost in the near future. Let's go to Sansa to see how much money I have left. I will go to the expedition in a month, and I have to prepare all the supplies. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 85 Planning. Riverrun, Sansa's study. This small room is not big. When Robb pushed open the door and walked in, the first thing he saw was not Sansa, but a pile of papers. After careful identification, Robb could barely see Sansa with turbans behind the paper. She was busy writing and drawing on the paper. The warm sunlight poured in from the window, reflecting her frowning and serious face. After the Maesters calculated the accounts, the followers would send the accounts here. Sansa would conduct a strict inspection and only register them after confirming that they were correct. She was just a teenager, but she could already bear such a heavy workload. Robb sighed in his heart, wondering when he had become a boss who exploited his employees. Robb coughed lightly twice. Our little princess has really grown up. Your hard work makes me ashamed. Sansa looked up in surprise when she heard Robb's voice. Her eyes followed Robb's arm down, and she saw something familiar. Brother, you made clothes for me again. Robb laughed. This is a reward for you. Sansa curled her lips. I'm not the little girl I used to be. I know, this is the reward for you to change. Robb put the simple but exquisite clothes in Sansa's hands. Sansa stroked the green dress in surprise and couldn't let go of the hem made of expensive silk. When will mother come back? I want to wear it for her to see. She never likes luxurious clothes. Robb shook his head. She went to Winterfell to visit her father's ashes. She will probably stay with Bran and Rickon for a while. I don't know when she will come back. Okay. Sansa said as she moved a pile of papers over. I know what you are here for. These are account books. Looking at the smug look on Sansa's face, Robb couldn't help but laugh. It seems that during this time in Riverrun, the shadow in Sansa's heart has faded a lot, and she has become lively and cheerful again. Sansa picked up the paper and said with a smile, I know you don't like to read these. I will read them to you. Robb listened quietly and found that his financial situation was much better than he thought. After occupying the 4 gold mines of the Lannister family, Robb didn't have to worry about the problem of gold dragons in the short term. But the food problem still exists. The Riverlands were robbed by Tywin before and are now slowly recovering. It will take some time to provide blood transfusion to Robb's army. Relying on the food stored in Riverrun and the harvest from the Westerlands from time to time, Sansa estimated that these grains could last for 3 months at most. If the problem cannot be completely solved by then, they can only compete with the civilians in the Riverlands for food to survive. Robb sighed. It's because the road to transport food is blocked by the Westerlands and King's Landing. Otherwise it would be better to spend money to buy food. Sansa now admires her brother very much. With my brother, the problem will definitely be solved. I hope it will go smoothly. By the way, I will go to the Rock and Sealand to monitor the progress of the Navy recently. You wear it well in Riverrun. If you have any problems, go to Earl Blackfish and Uncle Edgemere. Sansa was a little reluctant. Brother, you are going out again. Okay. Be good. Wait until I come back and find someone to make you a new dress. After leaving Sansa's small study, Robb packed his luggage and rushed to the Rock with his wolf riders. The Rock is an important city in the Westerlands. After being occupied by Robb, it was divided among his men. Robb took the wolf riders with him, not only to supervise the progress of the Navy's formation, but also to go south to plunder other areas of the Westerly. After staying in the Rock for more than 20 days, Robb was delighted to find that his navy finally took shape. Under the strict requirements of Wendell Manderly and the Manderly family, at least the soldiers would not stagger around as soon as they got on the ship, and they would have no combat effectiveness at all. At present, they can stand firmly on the ship, recognize the lead ship, understand the commands on the flag on the lead ship and respond. Robb is already very pleased. At least they can form combat effectiveness, and it looks quite intimidating. After a few more days, the combat effectiveness of the Navy has been strengthened a lot. At this time Robb received the news from the Wolf Guard and Earl Blackfish. After Euron ascended to the Seaston throne, he immediately took his men to plunder the Reach. Euron took his warships and reorganized the scattered Iron Fleet. They have now arrived at the Shield Islands in the Reach and looted. They have no intention of going back. Now they can invade Highgarden along the Manda River, or continue south and plunder the Arbor Island in the Reach. Although Robb wanted to send troops immediately and take over the Iron Islands in one fell swoop, while Euron was away, the combat effectiveness of his navy was still too weak. Robb knew that, although his navy looked well equipped, it was just a silver-headed wax spear. Once on the battlefield, it might not even be able to exert 50% of its training strength. Another actual battle was needed to improve the morale and ability of the army. Putting aside the idea of attacking for the time being, Robb began to read the follow-up content of the report. The Ironmen had a good harvest this time. The Shield Islands were a relatively prosperous area in the Reach. If they continued to plunder the Arbor and succeeded, they would gain more. Because the Arbor is one of the richest areas in the entire Westeros continent. The climate of the Arbor makes the quality of the wine produced here the best in the entire Westeros continent, and the sales volume and price also satisfy the owner of the Arbor, Earl Redwine. But the Rose family of Highgarden did not think that the Ironmen would bite this piece of fat meat. They were afraid and disgusted with Euron and wrote to Robb for help. The Wolf Guard sent out by Robb also sent back news from Highgarden. Highgarden believes that the next target of the Ironborn will not be the Arbor but Highgarden. They hope that your majesty can send troops as soon as possible to help Highgarden relieve the pressure. They dare not urge your majesty, nor do they want your majesty to attack directly, but just pretend to attack to intimidate the Ironborn. Because the fleet of the Arbor will also set out, putting pressure on the Ironborn and forcing them to leave. Highgarden assured your majesty that when the danger of Highgarden is over, the fleet of the Arbor will help your majesty take over the Iron Islands. Yes, the Arbor has a fleet. The reason why the Queen of Thorns in Highgarden judged that the Ironmen would not attack the Arbor was because the Arbor was not a pushover. The Redwine family of the Arbor made so much money from wine, and they were able to guard such a large treasure chest and prevent others from taking it away. Naturally, they were not the kind of people who only knew how to spend their money in debauchery. The Redwine family had long ago formed one of the 3 strongest navies in Westeros: the Redwine Fleet, the Iron Fleet of the Iron Islands, the Royal Navy of the Iron Throne, and the Redwine Fleet. These 3 navies are famous in Westeros. For now, the Redwine Fleet is actually the strongest navy. Stannis, the second son of the Lu family, was the Minister of the Navy before, and now he is in rebellion, and many captains of the Royal Navy have also followed Stannis in rebellion. So now the Royal Navy is in a state of division. The Iron Fleet had just suffered a defeat in the north and was seriously injured. Euron had just reorganized the Iron Fleet, and its apparent strength was certainly not as good as the Redwine Fleet. Looking at the entire sea, the Redwine Fleet was not afraid of anyone. After Robb understood the situation, he immediately remembered some subsequent developments. The Reach was originally married to the Iron Throne, so the Redwine Fleet was sent to fight the second son of the Deer family, resulting in the empty defense of the Arbor. That's why Euron was able to plunder the Arbor. Now the Redwine Fleet did not go to King's Landing, and all of them were waiting on the Arbor. It was reasonable for Highgarden to judge that he was the next target of the Ironborn. In this case, unless Euron's brain was kicked by a donkey, he would never risk attacking the Arbor. Faced with Highgarden's request, although Robb thought about it and felt that there was no problem, his fleet now needs a real battle to improve its level. Anyway, sooner or later, he will go out to sea for a tour, and now is the best time. Just show up in the Iron Islands. It's definitely not okay to fight directly now. Robb's eyes moved back and forth on the map and finally found a suitable target: Fairy City. Fairy City is located in the Fairy Islands, south of the Rock City, and is the castle of the Lannister family's vassal. Robb plans to take the fleet north to the Iron Islands to visit Pike City and then attack the Fairy Islands unexpectedly. This has many advantages, the first of which is that it can train troops. Fairy Island is isolated and has insufficient strength, so it is easy to win a battle to boost morale. After he occupies Fairy Island, Robb can plant a mail between Euron and the Iron Islands. Whether Euron wants to return to the Iron Islands or the people of the Iron Islands want to set out to support Euron, he can send troops to harass him. He is in an invincible position, and after the Redwine Fleet and the Iron Fleet fight, he can attack according to the situation. If the Redwine Fleet defeats Euron, he can attack from both sides with the Redwine Fleet and completely destroy the Iron Fleet. If the Redwine Fleet delays the Iron Fleet, he can officially attack the Iron Islands. Without Euron's main force, Robb is confident that his fleet will take over the Iron Islands, and then the strategic goal will be achieved. Euron, who is homeless, has no choice but to die. Doing so can also gain the favor of Highgarden, which is really killing 2 birds with 1 stone. As for the option of the Redwine Fleet being defeated by Euron, Robb did not consider it. Not only Robb, but everyone who knew the news had not considered this situation. The Iron Fleet was seriously injured, and Durin slaughtered several captains after taking office, and the internal struggle was fierce. Even the Iron Fleet in its heyday is only comparable to the Red Wine Fleet. In this situation, the best result is to fall into a tense battle with the Red Wine Fleet. Defeating the Red Wine Fleet is really a pipe dream. Unless the other side can have an existence like me. No, that's not right. My influence on naval battles is not as strong as that on land battles. Unless the other side can have an existence that has the same influence on naval battles as I do on land battles, it is possible to win. Robb remembered that this kind of existence had never appeared in the original plot. So from now on, just follow your own plan. Thank you all for your monthly tickets. Chapter 86 Winter. The Rock, the base on the coast. Robb's fleet will set sail today. According to the plan, they will first go to Pike, and then attack Fair Isle. There are a total of 50 longships parked at the Rock, which can be fully loaded with 30,000 or 40,000 people. Unfortunately, Robb cannot afford such a large navy, so he only loaded 10,000 people. In addition, these soldiers are not full-time navy. After all, they are just infantry trained at sea, and they still have to use spears and bows to kill the enemy at critical moments. But it's enough. Robb was fully armed and put on the largest longship with Grey Wind, who was a little uncomfortable and fearful. Longships are highly maneuverable rowing boats designed for plundering and are the favorite of the Ironborn. Therefore, all the ships captured by Robb after defeating the Ironborn were longships. The longship Robb was on was originally named Ironborn Vengeance, one of the flagship longships of the Iron Islands. It is larger than ordinary longships and only slightly smaller than the invincible Ironborn that ran away. With so many people, the ship could carry more than 1,400 people. On both sides of the ship, more than 70 Ironmen who were captured by Robb acted as rowers. They were experienced and of low status and had no sense of belonging to the Iron Islands. Many of them were not Ironmen at all, but slaves who were plundered. It didn't matter who they worked for. Sir Wendell Manderley came to Robb and said, "Your Majesty, we are ready and can set off at any time." Robb nodded and said, "Let's go." At the moment of sailing, shouts and curses came from the surrounding longships. Don't panic, the ship will shake, and you can just follow the rhythm of the shaking and twist your big butts yourself, right? Keep your head down. Be careful of this moving sail. It can smash you into a fool. What's strange about the ship tilting a little? You idiots won't flip over. Sir Wendell Manderley was a little embarrassed. After a month of training, it was not easy for him to do this. White Harbor is a trading city, and the ships that the Manderley family members are familiar with are also flat-bottomed boats that transport goods, which are very different from long boats that are specially used for looting. They can only teach some sailing skills to ensure that the selected soldiers will not get seasick and vomit. Seeing this scene, Robb did not blame too much. Relax, the Ironborn are not born good at sailing. As long as they practice more and practice more, they can at least reach a medium level. Sir Wendell lowered his head. "Your Majesty is magnanimous. We are really ashamed